Hey, what's up, everybody? Cecil Lammey here, and me and Andrew Mason pre-recorded some Broncos goodness for you a little bit earlier today. Mace traveling back from the Super Bowl. I'm sitting in a meeting right now, so I will play a special edition of Orange and Blue today with me and Andrew Mason talking about the Broncos and DeMarcus Ware getting into the Hall of Fame. And here you go.
That is correct. You know what time it is. Orange and Blue today. Cecil Lammey, Andrew Mason, as Mace is on the case. And Andrew, I got to tell you, we run across some really good people in this industry, really good players. Mm-hmm. And DeMarcus Ware, I mean, my God, near the top of the list for everything. I know you're so very, very close with him and that journey to Super Bowl 50 that y'all had. DeMarcus Ware, a Hall of Famer. I'm getting chills just talking about it right now with you.
It was exciting, and I mean, it probably should have happened last year. I don't think he should have had to wait, but man, it was so cool. The smile on his face last night when he was on the stage, and it was Jerry Jones who welcomed to the Hall of Fame. But I'll say this, I mean, he made a point, especially when he was talking to a few of us from Denver, of saying, look, the Broncos are part of the journey as well. He actually said to me afterward that he's going to have a bunch of Broncos at his party. Like it's going to be a Super Bowl 50 reunion if he has his way. He was a Hall of Famer before he came to Denver, but I think one of the things that just put the stamp on it was winning Super Bowl 50, and not just winning it, Cease. He had a huge role. He had twice as many quarterback hits in that postseason run as Von Miller did. Von Miller had more sacks, and DeMarcus Ware had more QB hits. I mean, he was an incredibly impactful player. The Broncos don't have their third Super Bowl ring without DeMarcus Ware. It's why, in my opinion, if they were ever to make an exception to the 4-year rule on Ring of Famers, to me, DeMarcus Ware is the person you'd make the exception for, because there'd only be 2 trophies in that shelf if it weren't for him.
Yeah, and such a great journey for DeMarcus Ware with the Broncos. I saw you broke your bling out. Did you break your bling out? Did you post it on Twitter? Yeah. So
I wish I'd gotten a good picture of it. We actually did a little fist bump with our rings.
Okay, be careful! Don't lose any diamonds in that, because
I know, but we were just. I mean, it's funny. The thing I've learned is that even if you're just a writer like myself, there's a real bond among everyone who's got that ring. Like it really will never go away. And like, you know, whenever you see it, like, hey, you know, I mean, look at this. I mean,
right.
And he had it, like, he was flashing it last night. Obviously, but it'll be interesting to see, you know, how much he wears the Hall of Fame ring, because I can tell you, our friend Steve Atwater, he rotates that Hall of Fame ring in pretty regularly now, because as he told me, there are fewer of these than there are Super Bowl rings, which is true. I mean,
yeah.
DeMarcus Ware, by the way, number 371, because when you get in the Hall of Fame, you get a number. and the number among the modern era nominees for this year's class, the number is alphabetical order. So like Rondé Barber got the highest number, and then DeMarcus Ware got the last number. But that's okay. Behind, because he had Joe Thomas, then he had Zach Thomas, and then he had DeMarcus Ware at the end. But I don't think he cares. 371. It's sweet, and even though it's not a 4-year Bronco, I think it's fair to say that DeMarcus Ware as a Bronco, very relevant. I mean, to me, he's in. When we say Broncos in the Hall of Fame, yeah, I include DeMarcus Ware.
Oh yeah, wearing orange last night, by the way, too. You noted that on your Twitter, I believe, where when he's shaking Jerry Jones' hand, he had the orange like turtleneck or something.
He had the orange turtleneck when Jerry Jones greeted him to say he was in the Hall of Fame. So it's yeah. And DeMarcus Ware, like Peyton Manning, does things intentionally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's a reason why those were the two captains back in 2015, and of course they gave those rousing speeches the night before the game and all that. And that's when both of them left, first Peyton, then DeMarcus, the Broncos lost something that they have never gotten back since then. I mean, it's
right.
It was kind of a stair-step thing. You lose Peyton Manning, you're still a 9-7 team. You're still a good team. You still had that unquestioned leader in the locker room with D-Ware. And then when he retired, man, I mean, guys have tried to fill the void, but there's never been anybody since D-Ware retired who had the presence that he did in that room.
I would say authentic is the word that springs to mind with DeMarcus Ware, and that feeds into what you were saying about his presence in the locker room. And I'll say this, I don't think Von Miller's on track to be a Hall of Famer without the influence of DeMarcus Ware. I think he missed Elvis Dumervil.
Yeah.
And Dumervil, and don't ever trust Marty Magid when that got messed up and Dumervil went away. DeMarcus Ware came in and really inspired Von, got Von on track, showed him the way, showed him the path. One, because he's a good man and he would just do that anyway. But just by his presence, by his work ethic, by his dedication, Von was like, I want to do that. And that's why we'll one day talk about Von Miller going into the Hall of Fame as well. And I think DeMarcus had an incredible influence on him.
Right. I mean, you look back at where Von was going into the 2014 season when DeMarcus Ware showed up. The previous year, he served a 6-game suspension at the start of the year. And then he had the ACL at the end of it. Von was very much a player whose career could have really gone astray if DeMarcus had not walked in there. And one of the cool things now to see on Von is how he is paying forward what DeMarcus did for him. We saw it more so with the teams the last couple of years. We saw it in Los Angeles, and we saw it in Buffalo before he got hurt. And Buffalo was basically using Von the way the Broncos used DeMarcus. Not every down, but when it really mattered most. And I do think that if Von had not gotten injured on Thanksgiving, we'd be talking about the Buffalo Bills being here right now, not the Kansas
Bills
City
in the
Chiefs.
Super Bowl.
Yeah. But Vaughn becoming that type of I mean, it's interesting because it didn't really happen here. He had to go somewhere else, but becoming something of an elder statesman here at the end of his career, he kind of needed to take the same path that DeMarcus did in going somewhere else, going to a team that viewed him as a final piece. And everything that's happened for Vaughn that's wonderful and that's going to make him a first ballot Hall of Famer, I think a lot of that he owes to DeMarcus Ware, and I do believe someday when so I would not be surprised, Cecil, if someday when Vaughn goes into the Hall of Fame, it's DeMarcus who presents him.
I could see that.
I could see that happening someday.
Yeah, and it'll be a glorious day to be sure. Favorite DeMarcus Ware memory. I'll go back to the draft because he came out of Troy, and
right.
So and you know, it was a little bit different back then. I don't think the draft was covered as much, but it's talent can come from anywhere. I've said it a million times. That's why I don't really care about small school prospects. I know that may seem foreign to some based on how much I complain about some small school prospects, but like when you watch DeMarcus Ware at Troy, you felt like that's something special on the way. So it's like he came out, he was maybe a little bit under the radar for some, but immediately made that impact. So many memories with him with the Cowboys and with the Broncos. The fake spin move for me stands out, but I really want to highlight how the draft world was like, again, maybe it was small school, whatever, but like he proved from day one that he could play in this league.
Well, before the Senior Bowl got overrun with too many people,
yes,
he was one of those guys. He was in the 2005 Senior Bowl that just, again, coming from Troy, questions about this guy athletically, can he make the leap? Well, he dominated. I'd say in terms of dominance on the defensive side that we've seen down there, he's in that Von Miller, Aaron Donald class of guys who just went down there and tore it up. But the difference is Von Miller came from Texas A&M and the Big 12 at the time, and Aaron Donald came from Pitt out of the, I think they were in the ACC by then. And so you knew more about them, but DeMarcus was one of the biggest revelations that we've had down there at the Senior Bowl. And
right.
And you knew this guy was going to be a force, and Dallas took him. Bill Parcells, man. I mean, when he watched pass rushers, he knew what he was looking at. He knew he had somebody special, and it didn't take DeMarcus Ware very long to show just how special he was in Dallas. That's what I mean. Like, I think he's putting on a gold jacket eventually, even if he never comes to Denver.
Yes.
But getting there, should have gotten there last year, but getting there in his second year, not having a knock on the door perpetually, that I think is because of what he did when he came to Denver. But yeah, for me with DeMarcus, it always starts with watching him at the Senior Bowl, because I remember being like, whoa, this dude's legit. And if I'm not mistaken, that was the year when the Broncos did not have a first round pick. So it was like, well, so much for that.
Yeah, we run into those years sometimes.
Yeah, like because remember, I mean, the Broncos really could, at that moment, really could have used somebody on the edge at that time. He would have filled a need, but alas, it took a little longer for DeMarcus to eventually make his way to Denver. But it's almost like it was destined to happen. Like if it didn't happen back then, it was going to happen eventually. DeMarcus Ware is a Bronco. And hey, one thing on the Ring of Fame thing, by the way, he did serve a year as volunteer coach. So, in my opinion, they should count that as the 4th year and put him in the Ring of Fame. But that's just
I know.
Yeah.
Like, and that was my next kind of point of conversation is,
or not volunteer coach, but a part-time coach.
Yes, part-time coach. Now that he's done in Hall of Fame and all that, like, do you think he'll go back into coaching? Like, he dabbled already a little bit, but is that, I mean, basically a guy like DeMarcus Ware can do whatever he wants because
that's, yeah.
I think he'd be great on TV. I think he'd be great in business, obviously. Like, so he can do whatever he wants, but would he maybe want to get back into coaching?
It's a good question, and it's actually interesting to ask in light of Sean Payton coming to Denver, because Sean Payton on the offensive side was on that Dallas staff when they drafted DeMarcus Ware. So there is a connection there. I mean, maybe, if he doesn't want to coach, maybe pass rush consultant. I mean, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't mind having him whisper in Baron Browning's ear as you try to get the most out of BB going into the 2023 season. I think that could only help. So
Nick Benito could use a guy like him as well.
Yeah. Nick's got a way. Nick's got a ways to go. Nick's got a lot of work to do.
Right.
I mean, I don't mean it anything bad on the young man, but if he wants to be an every down player, he has a long road to traverse. And someone like DeMarcus, who basically came into the league as a guy who's just a pass rusher and then refined the rest of his game. Hey, you know what? Nick Benito could learn a thing or two from DeMarcus Ware about setting the action. So, yeah, we're just kind of spitballing here, Cease, but why not? Why not have him around? Again, money's no object. Why, fly DeMarcus Ware in for a couple of days a week and let him do his thing and offer some tutelage and have him be connected to the Broncos again. I'd love that.
Yeah, and I appreciate how you bring up the changes to his game, because that's, we've talked about it before on the show, like you see a player as what they are today, but then you always know that they can grow and develop. Nick Benito isn't real good right now. He can still grow and develop, so let's see him do that. And it's so unselfish. DeMarcus Ware, and I say this about Derek Wolfe as well, leading into Von Miller, like Wolfie set up Von on a lot of stunts. They did stuff without even talking, like they just knew each other. So Wolf sacrificed a lot of his stats and maybe some of his money so that Von could get everything. And DeMarcus was that unselfish player who'd be like, yeah, I'll hustle, run and go opposite play side and run down a running back. That was no problem. And he was already at that level when he got here. He would still hustle down opposite play side and chase down her back.
And we talk about his legacy, and guys learn from him. I mean, I think we talk about Von Miller and what he learned. Let's not forget how much Shaq Barrett learned from being around D-Ware too.
Oh yeah,
and what he became, especially after he moved on and went to Tampa Bay and just tore it up down there. DeMarcus, and that's another memory that I have. It's not like a specific memory, but it's just seeing every day when they would do one-on-one drills. And by the way, let's get some one-on-one drills back. Won't it be fun to see one-on-one drills again this year, pass rush drills? And by the way, Sean Payton did say this morning, starters are playing in preseason. So it's gone. We're going to be kicking it old school this summer, baby. But yeah, go back to the one-on-ones. But one of the things I always remember about DeMarcus Ware is how when he wasn't doing a rep, you'd see him with a younger guy, and he'd always be showing him moves. He would show tackles like, okay, this is what you're doing wrong here. This is where your step is off a little bit. He even when he was playing, he was a coach. He was another coach for those guys, and that's it. And again, that's sort of the paying it forward nature that D-Ware had is something that I respect and I loved about him as a player, and why I'm thrilled he's going in, and he's the first player from the 2015 defense to go in the Hall of Fame, but he won't be the last. We're going to be talking about Von Miller. I think we're going to be talking about Aqib Talib, and believe it or not, Cease, Chris Harris Jr.
I would love it.
Decade in the 2010s as a defensive back, and that is going to eventually, I think it might be a long time for Chris, but that's going to put him in the Hall of Fame conversation someday down the line when we're old and you're walking around with canes and whatever. We may be talking about 4 Broncos from that special 2015 defense in the Hall of Fame. I think this team would deserve it.
If you know football, you know that Chris Harris Jr. is a Hall of Fame player. He's on that level, and it may take some time, and it may take someone like you, Leggy, like to make sure the NFL does not forget, because the plays that Chris Harris Jr. made, I remember his play against New England, basically, and it's like he's abandoning his responsibility because he knew it was going to Edelman, and he was able to break up that play. Like, that's next level stuff. So yes, there should be 4 from that defense, and I can't wait for that day, regardless of our canes or our full gray beards or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, might be hobbling around, but I hope I'm there to see that. That would be amazing. I was telling someone last night on Twitter, I hope I'm able to make the case for Chris, because he redefined what a slot corner could do. Like, sometimes part of the argument of a player is how they move forward the game. Chris Ford moved forward the possibilities of what you could get out of the slot corner. So somebody who could be a true playmaker, who knew and had that instinct to know what the QB's intent was. And because of that, even though never the fastest, never the quickest, but quite possibly the smartest, and not only was smart but could put it into quick action. I mean, so that's why You mentioned that play in New England. You mentioned so many times when he make that perfect break on the ball. I think back to that pick six in Baltimore back in 2012, when he takes it the length of the field, and I'm not going to think about what happened in the rematch, but that when Chris was sprinting down the sideline, I thought this team's going to win the Super Bowl right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris had, and Chris, even though he was only his second year, had a big part of that. And Chris, Aqib, DeMarcus, Vaughn, I hope their busts are all there. As John Madden likes to say, would like to say when he was alive, that they close the doors and the busts talk to each other. I like to think of that as being something that really happens. I know it doesn't, but I like to think of that as something that does. That's a fun fantasy to live in.
See, now you've got my movie writing brain going, because I'm like, do Night at the Museum, but in the Hall of Fame.
Ooh.
So they get together to like play a game. Like, so we get to see that. What would it be like to see the former era? What would it be like to see Jim Brown against today's defenders? Like,
wow.
It's Night at the Museum, except it's set in the Hall of Fame. $1 million idea, Mace.
That is brilliant.
Wouldn't that be a great sports movie?
That would. The question is, are they going to be like the gold versions of them?
Yes.
Is it like gold? So they're like gold heads on bodies that look like they did back in the day. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I can dig that. I mean, hey, we're in the era of CGI, right? We can do anything.
I'll have ChatGPT write the script. Did I get that right? ChatGPT. Anyway, it's Orange and Blue
awesome.
Today. We're doing a little pre-recording here.
Maybe Omaha Production should produce that.
Dude,
don't they want to get into films?
Well, I know some stuff about that, so I'll tell you off air some irons in the fire. So yes, Omaha Productions, Peyton, you're my dude, Peyton. You're my dude. So anyway, let's talk about the Super Bowl, and let's talk about kind of the vibe that you've picked up on. Obviously, all of Broncos country are going to be rooting for the Philadelphia Eagles. It seems like most people are favoring Kansas City. But let's jump into this game. We got about 10 minutes left in today's show, and talk a little bit about the big game and just, what kind of a game you're expecting on Super Bowl Sunday.
I mean, I'm expecting a terrific game. I was thinking about it this morning. You remember how Jimmy the Greek on CBS used to have that list of quarterback, running game, offensive line, etc., and there'd be like check marks on either side.
Yep.
If you did that for this game, Philadelphia would have most of the check marks, right?
Yes.
The Eagles are a more complete team. They have more explosive weapons. It's not that Kansas City doesn't have weapons, but I'll take Philadelphia's array over Kansas City's array. I'll take Philly's defense, all three levels, over the Chiefs' defense. But there's one thing that jumps out to me. First of all, it's obvious Patrick Mahomes, And with all respect to Jalen Hurts, he's not capable of doing the kind of transcendent off-script things that Patrick Mahomes can.
Right.
B, I was thinking back to when the Chiefs failed in the Super Bowl 2 years ago in Tampa. They failed because their offensive line was in absolute shambles then. And that's not the case this time around. So I don't think Philadelphia is going to be able to diffuse Kansas City in the way Tampa Bay did a couple of years ago. So even though Philadelphia's got a better overall team, I also say this. I think that the Chiefs, and this is owing to the experience, very business-like in their approach this week. Not that the Eagles are just, whooping it up and all that, but it's there's definitely maturity to the Chiefs that stands out, just kind of hearing from them and seeing them go about their business, being at a couple of their media days. They seem to be very very focused and very quietly confident about this game.
Yeah, and I think Kansas City knows, like, you got one ring. You should have had multiple rings by this time. You got one. Go get another one. And I think it's that experience. It's that sort of X factor that'll play into it, because the lights won't be too bright and the stage won't be too big. We don't know that about Jalen Hurts yet. And I think Hurts is a fine quarterback, but he might get out there and be a little bit of nerves, right? It's the Super Bowl. No one would blame him for having those nerves. Pat Mahomes got ice in his veins. So, I don't want Kansas City to win, but I'm picking Kansas City in this game.
Yeah, he's got ice in his veins. He's probably going to have some painkiller in his veins as well because of that high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
But yeah, it should be it should be a terrific game, and I do wonder. I think the Eagles are going to have some explosive plays because I don't think the Chiefs have enough coverage-wise to keep up with the Chiefs, and there are going to be some explosive plays. This is probably going to be I think it's going to take 30 to win this game. I'm thinking somewhere along the lines of 31-27. Look, this should be a really fun game to watch. But again, I'm picking Kansas City, even though it's funny. I'm wearing Colorado Rapids throwback stuff, and I realized, these are Philadelphia Eagles colors, basically, right?
Okay.
The black and the green. I didn't plan that, but hey, maybe it's a kind of subtle what I'm hoping to happen. I'm hoping to see the Eagles win it all. It's our friend Derek Wolf actually he said when he was talking about like who he's rooting for, and he kind of said under his breath on air on Tuesday they'd be rooting for the Chiefs, but he didn't. He's like, I don't care what Broncos country said, like, because he knows people in the Broncos are like, what? How can you root for the Chiefs and all that? But I think he's rooting for his guy Travis. Not that he doesn't love Jason Kelsey, right. But I think he.
Oops. Oh, there we go. Yeah. How about that, everybody? There it is. All right. That's a wrap for today's program. It is Orange and Blue today, 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Cecil Lammey still in a meeting. Until next time, how about I do this? You get one of these. Be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated. Stay tuned, and as always, stay frosty, baby.